During the week, I was having a conversation with a man, and in the conversation, I mentioned that Friday, the 2nd of April, was going to be Good Friday, and that it was going to be a public holiday. The man was quiet to start off with, and then he swore he was angry because this actually stopped his plans. He had planned on going shopping that particular Friday, and it was his only opportunity to go, and he was really, really upset that a Christian holiday, one where we recognise the death of Jesus and the resurrection, was forced upon him. He told me straight forward that he was atheist. He then said to me, wanting to know more about what my thoughts were, whether I was a Christian, what I actually believed, and then said to me, do you think that there should be a law in Australia that does away with all these holidays that are forced upon us, especially if you're not a Christian? Are you a Christian, Natasha? The work of creation can never be explained by science. What science can explain the mystery of life? In Genesis 1, God tells us about how He created the universe, the earth, and every living thing. God created everything from nothing in 6 24-hour days. The Bible, God's record of history, later makes sure we get the point by saying specifically that He made everything in 6 days, in Exodus 20, verse 11. When it comes to people, God tells us that He formed man from the dust of the ground, and He made the first woman from a rib from Adam's side, not from an ape-like creature. We were uniquely made in His image and was certainly no accident. Birds, bats, bees, butterflies, and all sorts of living things were responsible for keeping the plants all around us growing and healthy. God's design is everywhere, even in the tiniest insects. The next time you see a bumblebee, stop to look at what the little guy is up to. If he's near a flower, he's probably doing his job as a pollinator. Pollinators carry pollen from one plant to another, allowing the plant to bear fruit and reproduce. But some of our pollinating friends don't choose just any plant. They're picky with their food, and certain species of insects are responsible for pollinating certain types of plants. The relationship between these pollinators and plants is important. Without it, neither they nor their favourite plants would exist. With so many species of plants and pollinators roaming the world today, how do we connect them to what God's word says about creation and the worldwide flood? Here's a question for the children. What day did God create plants? Yes, on the 3rd day. But He didn't create pollinators until days 5 and 6. How would these plants survive without their pollinators? There is no way they could have survived for millions or even thousands of years. If we take into account that the days described in Genesis were actual days, not long periods of time, the plant life would only have to wait 2 or 3 days before their pollinating friends helped them reproduce. What about the flood? The earth changed dramatically with the flood, and it likely took some time for certain plants to spring up again. Some plants were brought into the ark to feed Noah's family and all the animals there. But God did not command that plants be aboard like He did the animals. He didn't say, bring 2 daffodils of every kind or 2 lettuce of every kind. Plants and pollinators after the flood had to be less picky to survive. Since they had to adjust to what was available to them, many likely became extinct. Over time, some hardy plants and insects were able to form special relationships again. This is an example of plants and insects adapting within their kinds to be successful at what they do, and they didn't need millions of years to do it. God's word is the ultimate authority, but Scripture does not specifically address the relationship between plants and their various pollinators during creation or after the flood. We can make a hypothesis or an educated guess based on the scientific evidence in the world around us and based on what the Bible has to say about plant and animal life existing together. God hasn't given us all the answers to specific questions, but as Solomon says in Proverbs 25 verse 2, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honour of kings to search out a matter. We serve a mighty God, and it's really hard to believe, growing up in a Christian family, that this world resulted through evolution. Everything created is unique and special. Even members of our family are not identical. We might share the same colour eyes and have freckles, but even the freckles can be different. Scientists are saying identical twin genes are not identical. Twins may appear to be cut from the same cloth, but these genes reveal a different pattern. Even when we look at our pets, we've owned 2 border collies and we love our pet dog Buddy, but even though the border collies were the same colouring, they weren't exact. They had different features. God made all his creation different, making each one of us special and unique. Does anyone know what this creature is called? Sorry? No? What kind of badger?
Honey badger.
It's a honey badger. The honey badger is notorious for its strength, ferocity, and toughness. It's known to savagely and fearlessly attack almost any other species when escape is impossible, reportedly even repelling much larger predators such as the lion and the hyena. Bee stings, porcupine quills, and animal bites rarely penetrate their skin. The honey badger measures just 152 to 177 centimetres in length, with 20 to 30 centimetre tail. They can drive a young lion from its kill and overcome a 3-metre python. Its skin is too tough for most predators' teeth or bee stings to penetrate. Additionally, it is so loose that the animal can twist and turn when seized by an attacker in order to retaliate and escape. How do you think it got its name? Yeah, they love honey. Beekeepers persecute honey badgers because of their pesky habit of breaking into beehives. They also eat insects, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, as well as roots, bulbs, berries, and fruits. Who knows what this creature's called? It's a water spider, or it's got another name called a diving bell spider. In Europe, Asia, and parts of Africa lives a curious little spider that has its home underwater. The female water spider, also known as the diving bell spider, spins a tiny web in the shape of a bell, attaching it to stems of water, weeds and plants just below the surface of freshwater pond. All spiders need to breathe air, so the water spider takes its air along like a skin diver. On the surface, she traps tiny bubbles in the hairs of her body, then hurries home and brushes them off, releasing them under her web. The spider makes many trips to bring back air bubbles of her underwater bubble nest. The waterproof web becomes inflated with trapped air and makes a perfect diving bell while she lives, eats, and lays her eggs. If the fresh air is used up, the water spider returns to the surface to breathe and collect more fresh air bubbles for her home, living below yet breathing the air from above. This little spider is constantly surrounded by water, yet remains perfectly dry. Just going to show you a little video. So this is how the spider actually gets its air bubbles and creates its home, and eventually puts its dinner in that bubble. Now you can't tell me that this creature just evolved. How would it know how to create this bubble, and how would it know how to catch its prey? The water spider illustrates how Christians may be in this world, but not of this world. No matter how much water surrounds the water spider, it still is able to breathe air because it takes a bubble of air with it wherever it goes. How can the Christian live with a constant connection to heaven while living in the sinful world? And I'm going to ask the children. Take the Bible with us everywhere. What else? Prayer. Through prayer, like the breath of the soul, we can pray to Jesus no matter what our surroundings. Prayer is just as necessary to our spiritual life as oxygen is to our physical life. I long for the day when I will be in heaven, but even now we can breathe the air of heaven through prayer. Jesus knows we are in the world, but we do not have to be of this world. John 17, verse 15 to 17 says, I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but that thou shouldest keep them from the evil. They are not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. We can continue to breathe in the world as long as we keep our connection with God. Who knows what this creature is called? The stick insect, that's right. Finding a stick insect requires careful observation. As the name makes it very clear, it resembles a stick. This, combined with an ability to stay perfectly still for long stretches of time, provides the stick insect with one of the most efficient natural camouflages on the earth. There are many varieties of stick insects. One of the coolest is the giant prickly stick insect pictured here. Any idea where you can find this insect? Okay, which country? That's right, they're actually native to Australia. It boasts the added feature of thorn-like spikes to further blend into its surrounding. Do you know what this creature is called? Sorry? No. No. It's called a feather star. These crazy-looking marine animals have their feathers to get around underwater. They like shallow water, but they can sometimes be found on ocean floors up to 9 kilometres below the surface of the water. Swirling their many feathered legs in the water, we can almost imagine what they'd look like floating through the starry galaxy. Feather stars raise their arms up into the current and catch their food particles in a sticky mucus that covers their feet. Listen to this. This bolus of ball of food is then passed to their mouth along a groove in the centre of each arm, shuffled along by a current created by tiny heads, as they do not have an official stomach. Imagine that. That's what it looks like. It's like a bunch of feathers all tied up together. What an awesome and creative and imaginative God we serve. Apparently, not everything that's leafy grows on plants. You may find this hard to believe, but the leafy sea dragon is actually a type of fish. If you squint your eyes, you might be able to see the resemblance to a seahorse. The leafy sea dragon, where do you think you find that? No, which country? Or whereabouts? Okay, yeah, okay, reefs, yes. No. South Australia's marine, it's actually South Australia's marine emblem. There are only 2 species of sea dragons found in the world. So what do these creatures eat? The leafy sea dragon sucks up its prey using long pipe-like snout and small mouth. Its favourite food is shrimp or sea lice, and these shrimp feed on seaweeds that thrive in the shade of kelp forests where the sea dragons live. Now, this one is interesting. Who knows what that is? A platypus, that's right. This little creature has a unique combination of characteristics that has baffled evolutionists. Studying this amazing animal points to a creator. In 1798, early Australian explorer and governor John Hunter watched an Indigenous Australian spear a small amphibious animal that looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Later, 2 specimens were sent to England. This creature was a puzzle to the scientists of that time. It seemed like a combination of a bird, amphibian, and a quadruped mammal. It suckled its young and had fur like a beaver, yet it laid eggs like a bird. The world had discovered the duck-billed platypus. The platypus is a wonder of God's creation, and it continues to baffle naturalists because it's so difficult to classify. It was so unusual that at first scientists thought it was a prank. When zoologist George Shaw examined one in 1799, his initial reaction to the first specimen was that it was an elaborate hoax. The platypus is such a paradox because it has so many features that are similar to completely different animal species. National Geographic says, the platypus is among nature's most unlikely animals. The animal is best described as a hodgepodge of some familiar species. The duck, the bill and the webbed feet, the beaver, the tail, and the otter, the body and the fur. Males are also venomous. They have sharp stingers on the heels of their rear feet and can use them to deliver a strong toxic blow to any foe. They also suckle their young and reproduce by laying eggs. National Geographic adds, platypus reproduction is nearly unique. It is one of only 2 mammals. What's the other animal that lays eggs? The echidna, that's right. They also find their food by using electrical signals to locate objects in deep and dark water. They are truly a wonder of God's creation and strong evidence of intelligent design. The Bible reveals that God is the creator of the world and the creatures in it. The incredible complexity of any living animal points to a creator who has an intellect that far exceeds all human beings. His designs have an amazing variety, but also some consistent themes. Think of it this way. If you were building two different machines, you might often use similar parts. Take, for example, a car. If you're building a car, you would use tyres, wheels, metal, steering wheel, and electronic parts. Then if you were building an airplane, you would also use similar parts. Of course, in an airplane, operates differently to a car, but it still uses similar parts. Evolutionists try to explain how all animals came from a single source, a single living cell that later evolved into all the other more complex creatures. They have constructed trees of life to explain how this happened. However, the duck-billed platypus poses a great problem. Which branch does it really fit in? For example, it cannot have come from the same evolutionary line as the beaver because it lays eggs. Now, evolutionists are abandoning Darwin's theory, tree of life. Why? Because it's wrong. Our last creature we're going to look at, do you know what this creature is? Okay, Charlie, what's it called? Correct, the Goliath bird-eating spider. My poor family had to bear with me as I rehearsed the sermon all week, so Charlie obviously knows some of these animals. The Goliath bird-eating spider is found in the jungles of Suriname and French Guiana by mass, the largest spider in the world. The spider belongs to the tarantula family. It was named by explorers who witnessed one eating a hummingbird. So how big are they? Any idea? Yep. Okay, so in 1965, a male specimen was collected that had a leg span over 11 inches. What's that in centimetres? Yeah, that's the size of a dinner plate. In addition, these amazing tarantulas also hold the record for the longest-lived spiders. One female specimen lived to an estimated 27 years. This same family of spiders holds the record for the heaviest spider. Another female collected in Suriname weighed a whopping 4.3 ounces. She was also sporting fangs 1 inch long. With creatures like this crawling around, you can understand why many people fear spiders more than death. The Goliath bird-eating spider is pretty harmless to humans, as are most species of tarantulas. They do carry venom in their fangs, and they have been occasionally known to bite people when threatened. But the venom just causes swelling and mild pain, something like a wasp sting. Most of the time, if a tarantula is forced to bite a human in self-defense, they don't even inject the venom. It's known as what they call a dry bite. Strangely, the Goliath bird-eating spider can do the most damage to people from the back side. Their abdomens are covered with twisted fiberglass-like hairs filled with microscopic hooks. If forced to defend itself, the tarantula might flick these fine vexing hairs off their tail section with their hind legs. The fuzzy hairs can become embedded in the flesh of anything close by and are extremely irritating to the skin. They are especially troublesome if they get into delicate mucous membranes and eyes and the mouth. So while most people are worried about the giant fangs in the front, the Bible teaches the devil also does more damage through the little invisible things. Just as a spider can be found anywhere, even in the palace of a king, so the devil does not limit himself to certain places. Though we cannot see Satan, he roams everywhere on our planet, deceiving us with many things including the theory that we have no God and that everything has evolved. All living creatures on the earth were designed by God. He says in Isaiah 46, verse 5, "To whom will you liken me and make me equal and compare me, that we should be alike?" The ability of God to create is far beyond any human mind or computer that we have today. So in conclusion, the inspired scriptural account is abundantly clear in how God is the creator of our world. The psalmist declares, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, the starry host by the breath of his mouth. For he spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood firm." God's word was and is a creative word. The vastness of the universe gives testimony to God as creator. Psalms 8, verse 3 to 4 says, "When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon, the stars, which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visit him?" John 1, 1 to 3, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made." God's word testifies of him. Nature testifies of his handiwork, and we've seen how unique and special each of God's creation are. Going back to my conversation with the atheist, am I a Christian? I most certainly am, and am proud to admit it. Why? Because I believe with all my heart that God is creator, and the beauty of his handiwork surrounds me every day. But most importantly, that he died for my sins. He owns me twice, through creation and by his death. In spite of being marred by transgression, nature still bears an eloquent testimony to the love and power of a divine creator. How strange it is that so many of those who wrestle with these mysteries do not recognise the creative power that produced them. Even though many naturalists stand in awe of the creature, few seem to recognise and honour the Creator.